Hello and welcome to GreenFleet Talks. My name is Kate Armitage. I'll be your host for our discussion today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Priyam Gajjar, EV Business Development Manager at E.ON Drive.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Priyam. Great to meet you. It's the first time that we've spoken. I think a lot of us are very familiar with E.ON Drive and the great work that they're doing in the e-mobility space. So I'm hopeful that we're going to have a very interesting conversation this afternoon.
I'll do my best, absolutely.
Well, let me start throwing the hard questions at you first of all. There's been quite a lot of political turbulence in the last few months. So we're just coming out of the end of that. But as a result, we've now heard that Labour has pledged to bring back the ICE vehicle ban. I should say reinstate it back to 2030, where it was, and then it went out to 2035, and it looks as if it's going to come forward again. Let's assume that this will happen. I mean, DfT have given us a fairly strong indication, but how much disruption is this whole turbulence causing in the industry, and what effect is it likely to have on business plans?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, I mean, it's good news. I think it's definitely good news. It's, of course, an ambitious target, but I'd say definitely achievable. With effort from the government, from the industry and the consumers. I think we all need to put the effort in. So, I mean, the level of disruption to businesses is gonna depend heavily on sort of, I think, how far a company has progressed into their transition to an EV fleet. I mean, yeah, we're gonna see some. There will be some issues that arise from this. We're going to see a rapid increase in demand for electric vehicles. This could result in maybe a bottleneck, you'd say, on an already strained supply chain when it comes to battery components. So there's already some issues there, and this will add to it with the increase in demand in vehicles, electric vehicles. So I think, yeah, it's important for the companies to secure the required number of fleet vehicles as quickly as possible to help them avoid these issues down the line.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is, of course, we have the ban was replaced with a ZEV mandate. And the targets within that ZEV mandate, we have heard quite a few times, are actually being passed on to fleets in some respects. So 22% of your order book has to be battery electric, which is quite interesting, and another dimension to all of this. But your point about it depends how far you are on the electrification journey is absolutely right, because for some companies they didn't change their plans when it went from 30 to 35. They said, no, we're carrying on. Great for them. What about these businesses? And I'm thinking about SMEs, but there could be some larger companies in there who actually saw that ban being pushed back as an opportunity to delay their electrification plans. And subsequently, what advice have you got for them to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for these types of companies, I'd say probably identify your quick wins is probably something you should do kind of straight away, and this will help you create a roadmap that would lead to a completely sort of electric fleet. For example, perhaps you only require a handful of rapid chargers at your site to cater for your needs for your fleet, and maybe you're covering shorter distances as well, so you may not need that many chargers. Could also be well, these are just some of the questions I suppose you need to ask yourself when you're defining what does the future look like for us. Is it more cost effective to have these cheaper overnight chargers? So, for example, an AC overnight charger, use those and possibly even install them at your employees' homes. So that's something else that E.ON offers as well. There's a fleet offer where we can install chargers at your employees' homes and allow them to charge there as well. And you can imagine it's a bit more lowering costs, lower capital expenditure there as well. So these are just some of the quicker wins that you can look at, and then we can offer, or the company could offer, a reimbursement scheme to the employees for the electricity use as well. Also, can your fleet also survive entirely on just public charging? You may not need to install chargers immediately or straight away. You can make the change to the electric fleet, start to make the changeover, and you could be okay with just using public chargers on the road that are already existing out there. You may have some close to your sites or some of the main locations, motorway service stations, things like that. So there is already a good infrastructure as well. It needs to be improved, yes, but there is still, in the majority of very busy areas, motorway service stations, there is a good electric charging infrastructure already available. Or it could be a mixture of all of the above. With E.ON, we can work with you and we can provide extensive consultation to find these sort of bespoke needs and deliver a full solution for you, I'd say.
Yeah, and you talked about home charging being cost effective, and the flip side of that is public charging is more expensive. So it's wise to have an idea of what your charging mix would be to help you understand what the possible savings are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's vehicles that need to be kept on site. You need rapid chargers, as you may have to do multiple, long journeys in one day. So we do need those DC faster chargers on site wherever. But why not help out your employees, help them to make the switch over as well. Offer them some incentives and say, look, we'll install a charger for you. We'll help you with electricity costs. And I mean, with E.ON, we do those different solutions as well. So, we help you build a plan where you can plan in all these different areas into your roadmap, I suppose.
Great. Prem, you talked about quick wins, which is great advice. What about the opposite of a quick win? A lot of fleets, a lot of our viewers now have made great progress on fleet electrification, but they're starting to get to the harder to reach stuff now, particularly when we're thinking about the electrification of vans or heavy goods vehicles. What are the barriers, and what needs to happen to see those markets opening up?
Absolutely. Let's be honest, electrifying a larger and more specialized vehicle like a van or a HGV, a heavy goods vehicle, or a EHGV, as they're now called. These specialist vehicles, it's gonna have a different set of challenges completely compared to a passenger car, an employee's car. These barriers can be technical, they can be economic, or even logistical. But I think that there definitely needs to be more of a focus on this area from maybe a manufacturing perspective. There's companies that when you're looking for an electric vehicle, you could struggle slightly to find an electric heavy goods vehicle that will suit the current payload. So I mean, just getting some of the details, it would be, they need to understand, these companies need to understand the impact of freight weight. So the freight weight is key to the mileage that they can get. And you need to look at adjusting your operating model, maybe possibly to carry lighter payloads for the time being, until there's that better technology in place as well. And, it could be whether extending SLAs or introducing more vehicles. There are pros and cons that both, I suppose, need to be considered.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously this is an expensive business because these vehicles aren't cheap. So increasing the size of your fleet at a time when most fleets are trying to consolidate and reduce the size of their fleet with bigger vehicles is a challenge for electric, because the bigger the vehicle, the bigger the battery, the more weight, and so on.
And it's like, again, so the pros and cons. So that's the cons, and maybe some of the pros are the cost of introducing an electric vehicle into your fleet. Long the travel, it could be a sound investment. It could be, given the money that is saved through the lower operating costs. It's a massive saving on fuel.
There's a huge opportunity on TCO, definitely, and I think on the procurement side, if you are a supplier, you may find that you have to have a zero emission solution to service your contracts. There's a lot going on there, definitely, but.
Even just to even if you were to also add to that, for example, like solar, if you were to charge your vehicles from a renewable source as well, such as solar panels on site, it could reduce your costs even further. So the cost savings they're massive. They're really huge.
That's the dream, right? The challenge is you've got to spend the money to get that benefit, but in the long term, you could be running your fleet of vehicles for free if you're generating the energy yourself. I agree,
and I think it will benefit everyone if maybe Labour that they want to bring everything in by 2030, and a bit more support as well from the government to help with things like on-site generation, microgrids. It's really going to massively help everyone in the long run.
It's just finding the money, I guess. Priyam, let's change the subject slightly. Let's focus on the drivers themselves, because they are a really important piece of this puzzle. And of course, they're the ones who actually have to drive the vehicles and potentially create the demand for the vehicles. So what would you recommend employers put in place to make sure that drivers are fully on board with fleet electrification plans and are confident when they do get behind the wheel?
Yeah, definitely. This is something key that needs to be looked at. Drivers are a key part, of course. I think the employers, we need to implement a comprehensive sort of strategy where it's going to address not just practical, but also even psychological aspects, to understand charging and range anxiety and to how to deal with these kinds of things as well. So I think there needs to be training, engagement, and also a reliable public charging network. These will be sort of integral in winning over the drivers. I think initially I would say look at running sort of pilots and getting some driver feedback, because it's different for all different areas and different companies. But I'll get some driver feedback to start with before doing a sort of full rollout of training. So just ensure you have some robust training in place, which covers these areas: driving, charging, and troubleshooting. And then put in place things like option for refresher courses as well, as and when they're needed. Also, I'd say, is there an opportunity to introduce some form of incentive as well? Just for example, a performance bonus for achieving optimal driving range, perhaps, or a recognition of certain milestones achieved in relation to EV.
It's certainly a great way to engage drivers, to have that kind of leaderboard of most energy efficient or whatever. I like your point as well about refresher training, and because I kind of think of EVs as new, so you're kind of training people on it for the first time. But actually, this market is moving so quickly. There are so many new players and different places to charge and different ways to access charge points, that actually I think refresher training or some kind of ongoing communication and updates for drivers would be really valuable.
100%. Yeah, I think that ongoing support and updates are kind of key as well. This is seriously fast evolving technology. So we need to continue to offer training and updates to keep drivers informed and comfortable with any new developments. And yeah, I think just help to build this community of EV drivers and help the the company, the drivers to share their experiences and tips and some new best practices, and can create a sense of belonging and a shared purpose to help everybody kind of with the EV charging and with the driving and getting over any issues they do have there. Yeah, I think the other point as well is ensuring adequate charging is available on the site, of course, whether it's at the employees' homes, a reliable public network, that's still very important as well. So yeah, I think these are the key parts we need to look at.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said building the community, because this really is a community of EV drivers at the heart of it. Priyam, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your insight today.
No, absolutely. Anytime. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome. Thank you, of course, to E.ON Drive for joining GreenFleet Talks, and thank you for watching. Please tune into GF365 again soon.